Hi, welcome to IT and Automation. Last time we looked into Argo CD installation as episode 1, and in today's episode we will look into how we get this Argo CD application. We will see it syncing and resources being created into the Kubernetes cluster. So when I say application in Argo, it is a group of Kubernetes resources as defined by a manifest. So let's start. This is where we left last week. We had admin password and we logged into it and browsed around and we looked into a few resources, right? However, I've in the background also moved away from manifest-based installation to Helm-based installation, just to get few touches around like ingress and some of the SSL termination settings. Let's talk about that too. And for that video, check out here this link, and then I'll put it in the description below. So with Helm, what we are doing is we are setting SSL secure connection and ingress. So if we search for here as ingress, that Argo CD .example.com, that's the domain we're using. Here, let me point that out there, and we will also look into secure thing. That secure server.insecure true, that one in here. So that we set that up. Which allows us to use, in a localhost installation setup. So yeah, without further ado, let's look into in here. Let's click on this new app and create a new application. Here you can fill in all of the details, and what we will do is use an example repo from Argo CD project itself. And this is the Argo CD project. We'll paste that URL. And we'll pick the branch that it is going to get that from. So yeah, so path becomes that apps, and we cut down that tree and master there. Yeah, that auto populates as well. If there was many other, we'll set this destination for application to be running as that local host, which wherever the Argo CD is installed. Give it Argo CD demo as a namespace there. It may fail because there is no such namespace, but why not? Let's see. Is there any such namespace there? No, and okay, so that's the application, right? Yeah, I said it may fail, but it wouldn't yet because this is as a dry run. Initially, if you're not using auto sync, what it does is it will show what it would have created. And these are the namespace resources that it would have created, and then the application itself, right? And all of these things are coming from here, the template, this path in here, from the example repo. So if you look into those manifests inside those each file, it is exactly these, what it would have tried to create. And yeah, if we look into here now, nothing. Let's do a sync. If you say, okay, I'll try to install the things here, and blah and blah. Nothing in here yet, so let's watch it. That kubectl get namespace w dot is what's that command. Let's press the sync button in here and say, okay, let's create all of those resources. And resources are just the namespace and application. So if you see this here, synchronizing it, and it should immediately create a few namespaces that it is trying to create. Here we go. So all of these namespaces came as a part of this installation, right? Sync wave as an application, blah and blah. And this error is, as I mentioned before, it may fail on that namespace, right? It's trying to create, it is trying to do something on Argo CD namespace, and it doesn't exist there. We could create a namespace as well, but for now we'll do create ourselves here. really this command creates a namespace called Argo CD, and if I sync it again, it should pretty much go all green. Yeah, so if it was in auto sync, right, this would be always looking into Kubernetes resource and watching the changes and revert it back. That could be one way of putting the stats intact. It works with Kubernetes API. So Kubernetes API would be looking at Kubernetes API, events API would trigger the change, and your resources will be back as it should be. So here that's namespace and blas, right? Helm guest. This is pretty much namespace resource as well. There is nothing like pods or no such deployments or those kind of resources. It's just the namespace and application being created. So let's try something else now, right? This gives us some view of how we used a repository and it synced the required resources or the resources that we wish to into a cluster. But yeah, again, these are nothing that creates an additional resource. The concept is same, right? If you were to do any other type of resource, CRDs, whatever, it would work in the same way. But let's pick something else here. Let's pick this sock shop, and we can follow this down the line. So if we look into the sock shop, let's copy this URL again, and then we will see these bunch of these things being created. So let's go create new application and give it some sensible name there. Not quite URL. Let's say sock shop maybe, and project default sync policy, that is manual now. If it was automatic, it will always try to keep things in sync. Here is the URL again. We'll put that URL same as before, nothing different, and here it pulled out all of the subfolders there. We pick subpart, and then destination is again the same, this cluster. Namespace will say okay, sock shop, and as a part of what we saw previously, we'll create that namespace as well. Let's run, let it fail, and then let's create it again, right? So you could have done that edit as a YAML as well. Here we go, and what would it bring? So now let's click that and see what it would bring to us, right? Okay, bunch of resources here: databases, catalog, front-end service, all sort of things, right? So it creates a service there, service there, service there, service, same sort of resource all around, and then deployment and another deployment. So let's look into this one of these deployment, right? Okay, here that is deployment. It is using that work catalog. Yeah, bunch of deployments, bunch of services, databases, but everything is as a part of deployment, right? Pods being created. Let's try to synchronize. It may complain about that database, that namespace again. Yeah, as we expected. Don't have sock shop. Let's create one. Let's create a namespace sock shop here, and and give it a go. Let's sync it again. Let's try to sync, and it should go green. I do have really limited resources, so I maybe expect some of them to fail, but at least bunch of them will go green if there are enough request and limits based requirements satisfied by the node itself. But let's see pods here. So if we look into the pods, I expect to see some, at least, on a creating or attempting to create or failing because of the resources. Okay, a bunch of pending, a bunch of creating, right? So that is it. Your desired manifest is converted into the resource, and Argo does quite nice behind the scenes job to put things in sync, right? So yeah, that's pretty much what it is, right? And if we look into services of that, here is sock shop service, and it should have a load balancer as well for the front end access. We'll not go too deep into the details. Let's digest this, and we'll come with another one. Here we go. Yes, and accessing that load balancer, if we were following the ingress path and using that, it would be accessible, and then you could, see the sock shop front end view. What my intention is to do all of these home-based installation and home automation that I like to spend my time on. We can use those as an Argo CD based setup, and we will do that kind of video in the near future. So hope you liked the video. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tune for more videos. Thank you.